Today we're going to explore TRIZ, the theory of inventive problem solving, developed by Genrich Altshuller. This powerful framework bridges the gap between scientific discovery and entrepreneurship by treating business models as engineering systems. TRIZ is a methodology developed by Soviet inventor Genrich Altshuller in 1946. After analyzing over 40,000 patents, he discovered that innovation follows predictable patterns. The beauty of TRIZ is that it transforms the seemingly chaotic world of startups into solvable, logical problems. Just like you would approach a physics or chemistry problem systematically, TRIZ gives you a systematic approach to innovation. Altshuller studied over 40,000 patents across multiple industries and identified that only 40 fundamental inventive principles account for most breakthrough innovations. This is remarkable. Originally developed for engineering problems, TRIZ has profound implications for scientists who want to become entrepreneurs. Let me explain why. Think of TRIZ as a bridge. On one side, you have your scientific discovery, your breakthrough technology. On the other side, you need a viable business model. TRIZ provides the systematic thinking to connect them. Here's a fundamental problem. Scientists and entrepreneurs speak different languages. Let me illustrate this with a specific example. A scientist thinks, how do I optimize my reaction yield? How do I improve specificity? How do I scale this synthesis? An entrepreneur thinks, who will pay for this? What's the customer acquisition cost? What's my gross margin? How do I scale distribution? TRIZ allows you to treat both perspectives as system optimization problems. You apply the same rigorous thinking to business strategy that you apply to your experiments. The heart of TRIZ lies in understanding and resolving contradictions. Let me explain what this means in practical terms. A technical contradiction occurs when improving one parameter of a system automatically worsens another parameter. For example, making a product more powerful might make it heavier. A physical contradiction is even more fundamental. The same element needs to have opposite properties. For instance, a material needs to be rigid and flexible at the same time. Let me give you a concrete example from biotechnology. Imagine you've developed a new drug compound, and you need to design a delivery system. The contradiction. You want high dosage for therapeutic effect, but high dosage causes toxicity. You want low dosage for safety, but then you lose efficacy. This is a classic technical contradiction. The traditional approach would be to compromise. Find some medium dosage that balances efficacy and safety. But this is suboptimal. TRIZ suggests using the principle of segmentation in time. Instead of a constant medium dose, deliver high doses in short pulses with recovery periods in between. Now you get both high efficacy and low toxicity. TRIZ identifies 40 inventive principles that have been used throughout history to resolve contradictions. Let me show you a few that are especially relevant for scientists building businesses. Principle 1. Segmentation. Divide an object into independent parts, make it sectional, or increase the degree of fragmentation. In business terms, this might mean breaking your market into micro-segments. Principle 15. Dynamics. Allow characteristics to change optimally at each stage. A scientific example. Adjust pH dynamically during a fermentation process. A business example. Dynamic pricing based on demand. Principle 35. Parameter changes. Change the physical state, concentration, or degree of flexibility. In business, this could mean changing your service model from fixed to subscription-based. Let's tackle a real business problem that every scientist entrepreneur faces. How do you offer high customization with limited resources? This seems impossible. The contradiction is clear. Increasing customization increases cost and complexity. Traditional thinking says you must choose between standardization for low cost or customization for high price. TRIZ suggests combining Principle 1, segmentation, with Principle 26, copying. Break your product into standard modules that can be recombined. Use digital twins or templates that customers can customize themselves. Consider Ginkgo Bioworks, a synthetic biology company. They faced this exact problem. Every customer wanted custom-engineered organisms, but this was expensive and slow. They applied segmentation. They built a library of standardized, characterized DNA parts. Customers get customization by recombining standard modules. High customization but the cost structure of standardization. One of the most powerful concepts in TRIZ is the ideal final result, or IFR. This is a thought experiment that guides your innovation direction. The ideal final result asks, what if the function is performed perfectly, but the system itself doesn't exist? This sounds paradoxical, but it's incredibly useful. Let me ask you a question. What is the ideal final result for a delivery service? Think about it for a moment. The answer: the product arrives instantly at the customer without any delivery system. Obviously impossible in most cases. But this thinking leads to innovations like 3D printing files instead of shipping physical objects, or on-demand local manufacturing. Let's apply IFR thinking to diagnostic testing. Imagine you've developed a sophisticated diagnostic assay that requires expensive lab equipment. Traditional model: patient goes to a centralized lab, sample is processed by trained technicians using expensive equipment, results come back days later. IFR thinking: what if diagnosis happens instantly, at the point of care, without any lab? This pushes you toward developing paper-based diagnostics or smartphone-based testing. Now, Theranos claimed to achieve this, but it was fraudulent. However, legitimate companies like Q Health and others are actually making progress toward this ideal by using microfluidics and AI. Let me show you a back-of-envelope calculation of why IFR thinking matters financially. Traditional lab test. Initial equipment cost is $500,000. You can process 100 samples per day. Over 5 years, the equipment cost per test is $500,000 divided by 365 times 100 times 5, plus reagent costs. That's about $27 per test, just for equipment amortization. Point-of-care device using IFR thinking. Equipment might be $50, one-time use, disposable, reagents integrated. Total cost per test might be $50 to $70. Higher per test cost, but eliminates lab infrastructure, trained personnel, sample transport logistics. Total system cost is dramatically lower for distributed testing. Another powerful aspect of TRIZ is the identification of evolutionary patterns. Altshuler discovered that technological systems evolve along predictable trajectories. The law of increasing ideality states that systems evolve toward delivering more benefits with fewer costs and harms. This is not just philosophy, it's a measurable trend. You can actually define ideality as the sum of benefits divided by the sum of costs plus harms. Successful products increase this ratio over time. One specific evolution pattern: systems evolve from monosystems to bisystems to polysystems. Let me give you a biotechnology example. Stage 1, single drug targeting one pathway. Stage 2, combination therapy, 2 drugs targeting different pathways. Stage 3, personalized multi-drug cocktails optimized for individual patient genetics. Understanding this evolutionary pattern helps you plan your R&D roadmap. Don't just develop a single therapeutic. Plan from day one how you'll move to combinations and eventually personalized cocktails. Another pattern: systems evolve toward increasing controllability and responsiveness. This has profound implications for business model design. In biomanufacturing, the evolution goes from batch production with no real-time control to fed batch with some parameter adjustment to continuous perfusion with real-time feedback control. The business implication: subscription models and service contracts give you more control over customer relationships than one-time sales. You can adjust, personalize, and optimize continuously. Let me show you how to systematically resolve a business contradiction using the TRIZ contradiction matrix. Here's a common contradiction for life science startups. You want fast market entry to capture opportunity and generate revenue, but you need lengthy regulatory approval, which delays entry. On one hand, fast market entry. On the other hand, regulatory requirements. Traditional thinking: just wait it out, or only target unregulated markets. TRIZ Principle 10, Preliminary Action, suggests perform required changes in advance, so you don't wait for full approval to start generating value. Practical solution: launch as research use-only product to academic labs while pursuing regulatory approval, or use the lab-developed test pathway for faster clinical entry. Generate revenue and gather real-world data while the regulatory process continues. Illumina used exactly this strategy with next-generation sequencing. They sold instruments for research use only, built a massive installed base and cash flow, all while working on clinical approvals. Rough numbers. Research use-only revenue in years 1 through 3 might be $50 million. Then clinical approval in year 4, and revenue jumps to $200 million. The RUO strategy funded the regulatory process and de-risked the business. TRIZ includes a tool called the System Operator, also known as 9-screen thinking. This helps you analyze systems across time and scale. The 9 screens show your system in the past, present, and future, plus the supersystem it operates within and the subsystems that comprise it. This prevents tunnel vision. Let's apply this to a drug discovery company. The system is your therapeutic molecule. The supersystem is the healthcare ecosystem. The subsystems are the molecular mechanisms. Subsystem past. Traditional medicinal chemistry, synthesizing molecules one at a time, testing in cell cultures. Subsystem present. High-throughput screening, computational modeling, AI-driven molecular design. Subsystem future. Fully in silico optimization, DNA-encoded libraries with billions of compounds, maybe even quantum computing for molecular simulation. Supersystem present. Drugs are reimbursed by insurance based on efficacy in average populations, prescribed by physicians. Supersystem future. Value-based care, genetic pre-screening, drugs prescribed by AI based on individual biomarkers. Strategic implication. Don't just optimize your molecule for today's system. Anticipate how the supersystem will evolve and design your molecule and business model accordingly. TRIZ emphasizes using available resources more effectively before adding new components. This is crucial for resource-constrained startups. TRIZ identifies several types of resources: substance resources, field resources like energy or signals, time resources, space resources, and information resources. Let me pose a question. You're a diagnostic startup with limited funding and no sales team. How can you compete against established companies with hundreds of sales representatives? TRIZ answer: exploit underutilized information and time resources, publish case studies and white papers, present at conferences, build online educational content. Use your scientific founders. Credibility. Your founders can write scientific publications that validate your technology. This is a free resource, it just requires time. These publications become sales tools that reach thousands of potential customers without a sales force. Cost of a high-impact publication, essentially zero beyond your time. Potential reach, 10,000 plus relevant professionals who read that journal. Compare that to a sales representative who might reach 100 people per year at a cost of $100,000. Another TRIZ tool is called trimming. You systematically remove components from your system while maintaining or improving its function. This leads to elegant, cost-effective solutions. The trimming rule. Remove component X if another component can already perform its function, or if the supersystem can provide that function. Business example. Do you really need a physical office? Can you trim that component? If your lab space can accommodate a small meeting area and most work is computational, maybe you can eliminate office rent entirely. Office rent, $5,000 per month equals $60,000 per year. That's potentially one additional scientist you could hire, or 6 months of runway extended. Another trimming example, manufacturing capability. Traditional thinking. To control quality, you need to build your own manufacturing facility. Trimming approach. Use contract manufacturers initially. They already have the equipment, the expertise, and the regulatory infrastructure. You've trimmed manufacturing from your system and transferred it to the supersystem. Building your own facility, $10 million upfront. Using a contract manufacturer, zero upfront capital, you just pay per unit produced. This preserves cash for R&D and customer acquisition. TRIZ recognizes that technologies and markets follow S-curve evolution patterns. Understanding where you are on the S-curve is critical for business strategy. The S-curve shows slow initial progress, then rapid improvement, then maturation and plateau. Every technology follows this pattern. In the early stage, progress is slow, risk is high, but potential is enormous. If you enter here, you can capture the whole market if successful. In the growth stage, improvement is rapid. This is often the best return on investment. Competitors are entering, but there's room for multiple winners. In the maturity stage, performance is plateauing. It's hard to differentiate. Competition is on price. Returns are diminishing. Strategic question you must answer. Where is your core technology on the S-curve? And where is the application market on its S-curve? These might be different. Example, CRISPR gene editing. The core technology is now in growth phase, improving rapidly, but different applications are at different stages. CRISPR research tools are already in mature stage. Competitive market, multiple established suppliers, price pressure. CRISPR therapeutics are still in early stage. Very few approved products, enormous potential, high risk, but huge opportunity for first movers. CRISPR in agriculture is in growth stage. Multiple products in development, regulatory path becoming clearer, accelerating investment. Strategic implication. If you have CRISPR expertise, don't try to compete in research tools unless you have a radical innovation. Focus on therapeutics or agriculture where you can capture more value. TRIZ emphasizes function analysis. What is the primary useful function your product performs? This is related to Clayton Christensen's Jobs to be Done framework. Your technology performs a function within a larger system. Understanding that function in the customer's context is critical. Example, next-generation sequencing technology. What function does it really perform? Shallow answer. It sequences DNA. That's the mechanism, not the function. Deeper answer. It reveals genetic information that enables clinical or research decisions. Now we're getting to the real function. Deepest answer. It reduces uncertainty in complex biological systems, enabling better decisions with lower risk. This is the true function. Business implication. You're not selling sequencing services, you're selling uncertainty reduction. Your pricing model, marketing message, and product features should all align with that core function. Let me show you how to quantify the value your product creates using TRIZ thinking. This is critical for pricing and positioning. Value created equals the cost of the problem you're solving minus the cost of your solution. You can capture a portion of that value in your pricing. Example, you've developed a diagnostic test that identifies patients who won't respond to a particular cancer therapy. The therapy costs $150,000 per patient. Without your test, only 30% of patients respond. 70% get no benefit but still incur the cost and side effects. That's $150,000 wasted per non-responder, plus the human cost of unnecessary side effects. Your test costs $5,000 and accurately identifies non-responders. Value created per non-responder identified. $150,000 minus $5,000 equals $145,000 saved. You could price your test at $20,000 to $30,000 and still provide massive net value to the healthcare system. Don't price based on cost plus. Price based on value created. So how do you actually integrate TRIZ into your startup workflow? Let me give you a practical framework. Step 1. Identify your key contradictions, both technical contradictions in your product and business contradictions in your model. Write them down explicitly. Step 2. Define your ideal final result for both product and business model. What would perfect look like? This guides your innovation direction. Step 3. Map your system, subsystems, and supersystem. Understand the context your product operates in and how it might evolve. Step 4. Systematically apply inventive principles to your contradictions. Don't just brainstorm randomly. Use the TRIZ framework. Step 5. Analyze available resources and look for trimming opportunities. What can you eliminate or simplify while maintaining function? Let me walk through a real case study. TRIZ Bioscience, a synthetic DNA company founded by scientists who applied TRIZ-like thinking. The problem: traditional DNA synthesis was slow, expensive, and limited in throughput. The industry had hit a performance plateau. Contradiction: you want high throughput to serve many customers, but you also want low cost per base. Traditional methods couldn't achieve both. They applied TRIZ principles of miniaturization and using a more controlled substance. They moved DNA synthesis from benchtop to silicon chips, borrowing semiconductor manufacturing techniques. Traditional method, 96 well plates, about 10 cents per base. TRIZ's silicon chip method, 1 million synthesis spots, about 1 cent per base. 10-fold cost reduction and 1,000-fold throughput increase. Result: they captured significant market share in custom DNA synthesis and expanded into new applications that weren't economically viable before. The key takeaway is the TRIZ mindset. Innovation is not random. It follows patterns. You can systematically generate innovative solutions. Most scientists think, my expertise is the science. I'll figure out business later, or hire MBAs to handle it. This is a mistake. TRIZ shows you that business strategy is fundamentally an engineering problem. You can apply the same systematic thinking you use in your research. Your competitive advantage as a scientist entrepreneur is combining deep technical understanding with strategic business thinking. TRIZ is the bridge. Let me be clear about what TRIZ doesn't do. It's powerful, but not magic. TRIZ doesn't teach you sales tactics, HR management, or accounting. Those are important administrative skills you still need to learn or hire for. TRIZ doesn't replace the need for market validation. You still need to talk to customers, test pricing, iterate on product market fit. TRIZ doesn't solve political or interpersonal conflicts. Managing co-founder relationships or investor expectations requires different skills. What TRIZ does provide is a strategic problem-solving framework that helps you make better decisions about product development, business model design, and resource allocation. Let me give you a practical exercise. Take your startup idea or current company and work through these questions using TRIZ. Question 1. What are your top 3 contradictions, both technical and business? Write them in the form, I want A, but this causes problem B. Question 2. What is your ideal final result? Describe the perfect outcome where your function is performed but complexity is minimized. Question 3. What resources are you underutilizing? Time, space, information, waste products, even gravity or ambient temperature. Question 4. Where is your technology on the S-curve? Early, growth, or mature? This determines your competitive strategy. Question 5. What components can you trim from your system without losing core functionality? Challenge every element. Let me summarize why TRIZ is uniquely valuable for scientists building companies. TRIZ translates the apparent chaos of business building into solvable, logical problems. This matches how scientists naturally think. It provides systematic methods and specific tools, not vague advice like hustle harder or follow your passion. Scientists respond to systematic frameworks. It emphasizes finding clever solutions over applying brute force resources. This is perfect for resource-constrained startups. It explicitly connects technical innovation to business value creation. You can see the path from your research to commercial success. Most importantly, it treats business model design as an optimization problem with constraints. This is familiar territory for scientists. Here's my final thought. Your breakthrough technology deserves a breakthrough business model. Don't settle for a mediocre, imitative business strategy just because that's the conventional wisdom or what investors expect. Apply the same rigor, creativity, and systematic thinking to your business model that you apply to your experiments. TRIZ gives you the intellectual tools to design a business strategy that's as innovative as your technology. Because ultimately, the commercial vehicle that delivers your innovation to the world should be as carefully engineered as the innovation is.